Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Friday, November 3rd. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. A flash flood watch remains in effect for the country until 6 p.m. tomorrow as unstable conditions associated with a trough system are affecting the southern Windward Islands, including St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A flood watch means that conditions are favorable and there exists the possibility of flooding within the watch area. The flash flood watch may be upgraded to a warning if conditions warrant. The SVG Meteorological Service says the forecast is mostly cloudy, slightly hazy and breezy, with moderate to heavy showers, periods of rain and isolated thunderstorms. The latest forecast model guidance suggests rainfall accumulations of approximately 2 to 3 inches with isolated amounts in mountainous areas. According to the Met Service, due to the already saturated nature of soils across some areas of the island, the probability of landslides and flash flooding occurring during the watch period is high. Residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides or near rivers and streams are asked to be prepared. Small craft operators and sea bathers are also asked to exercise caution for occasionally gusty winds and above normal sea swells. Over 1,800 application forms are currently being assessed for support under the SVG Food Insecurity Project. The project, funded by the World Bank and implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries and the Economic Planning Division in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, with assistance from the Ministry of Tourism, Civil Aviation, Sustainable Development and Culture, seeks to increase food production and avoid a food insecurity crisis, which may lead to other social ills. Speaking on the VC3 Roundtable program this week, Deputy Chief Agricultural Officer Colville King, who is the focal point for the project, said farmers have been responding pretty well.
That provided sufficient evidence that we need to put that in there, make an additional injection into the sector, and to ensure that we have the kind of production that feeds our nation, the visitor and resident ones, but also to ensure that we have the production to meet other needs. And although the project doesn't focus on exports, we have to recognize that strong demand in some areas were driving prices up simply because there was insufficient production in fish, in fruit and vegetables, and some other areas. So the idea was that we need to make it available, as Minister mentioned. We also need to make it a bit more affordable. And for those who just couldn't, that we also make it accessible through, those who are more vulnerable and very sensitive economically, who cannot afford those things. We also have components in it, particularly in the home garden side, to ensure that they can produce and consume for themselves. So, by the way I just discussed there, or described, we essentially selected a few areas where we think that there was absolute need. Our protein need, we couldn't tackle poultry, that was a bigger struggle, but we definitely are pushing along with ruminants, sheep, goat, cattle, rabbits, pigs, and poultry.
Minister of Agriculture Soboto Caesar, who was also on the program, said food insecurity is a condition of not having access to sufficient food or food of an adequate quality to meet basic needs.
It must always be available, affordable, and accessible. And there are some situations where food could be accessible, but the price is so high, you can't buy it. It could also be affordable, but we don't have enough producers, therefore it's not available. And it can be affordable and available, but the transportation and different things, you can't get it readily. And what we want to do is that we want for every single Vincentian. We don't want a person to go to bed hungry at nights. And that mantra was clearly explained by the Honorable Prime Minister. And I remember when we brought in the Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, they said to us that with the large number of tree crops that we have in the country, sometimes we do not work hard enough to ensure that the food that is available, that it is put to the best use.
Minister Caesar further outlined some of the challenges which may cause food insecurity in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, with the impacts of climate change being top of the table.
Consumers must always be in solidarity with farmers and food handlers and traders, because that is how we can ensure an excellent return on the investment. So I am confident that with the work that we are doing, that we will continue to ensure that St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that we are food secured. However, with so many vagaries of climate change, sometimes you wake up and you look at the weather report and you are attacked by a hurricane. It can knock you off the path of food security. And I'm happy that we are doing significant work in diversification, because we are also expanding in root crop production, ensuring that even though the plantains may be down and the bananas may be down, we have dasheen and tania and edos, and we have ginger and turmeric and these different root crops. So I am very happy with the direction that we're heading in.
Earlier today, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves delivered the 15th Convocation Lecture at Bells University of Technology in Lagos, Nigeria. Prime Minister Gonsalves spoke on the topic Technological Emancipation of Africa and the Caribbean in the Digital Space and the Global Drive for Reparations. In his presentation, the Prime Minister said good progress has been made over the last 10 years in relation to reparatory justice.
I am now President pro tempore, well, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is President pro tempore of the Community of States of Latin America and the Caribbean, an integration mechanism of 33 countries with a population of 650 million. And I just led a discussion in July at a summit of 60 countries, the 33 from Latin America and the Caribbean, and 27 European Union countries. And we got inserted in the declaration from Brussels at this summit, the question of reparations and the identification of the 10-point plan by CARICOM for reparations. The African Union has accepted it. Increasingly, we see universities throughout the world accepting the idea. The Anglican Church in the United Kingdom, resolutions have been presented in the US Congress on the subject. So please, don't think that this is a fairy tale. This is a real thing, with countries in Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, and the diaspora.
Prime Minister Gonsalves used the opportunity to donate some of his books to the students and others in attendance at the lecture. One of his books addresses the problem of Caribbean reparatory justice.
Some books which I've written, and there are some speeches also which I've made. And one of the books I'm donating addresses the question of Caribbean reparatory justice, so that you can look at it. Professor Hilary Beckles, the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, he has written several books on this matter, and I want you to study it, educate yourself, and join in a solidarity movement worldwide for us to press with Africa and the Caribbean and Latin America for reparation.
The lecture was attended by students, faculty, staff, and alumni of Bells University in Nigeria. The Prime Minister and his delegation are expected to return home to SVG on November 8th. Member of the Police Oversight Committee, Denniston Douglas, has said that the main role of the committee is to foster a good relationship between the police officers and members of the public, and they are working to improve this relationship. Douglas, who was a guest on the Cop Chat program on WeFM via Zoom discussing the topic, the role and importance of the Police Oversight Committee in dealing with complaints, said they are hoping for collaboration between the Police Public Relations Department and the Police Oversight Committee to hold consultations in the various communities to help mend the relationship between members of the public and the police.
Sergeant said we cannot fight crime unless we have the public have total confidence in the police force. That is the level that we want to reach, and I'm hoping that in our next year of operation, that between the police public relations and the police oversight committee, that we can go into a few communities and do some consultation, listen to the public, because until we reach to the grassroots, until we reach to the communities where people reach to that point that you're confident that yes, if the police abuse a civilian, that there are processes to readdress that. If the police leak confidential information, that there's a process also to address that, because that is one of the critical issues that the public are complaining about, that they don't trust the police with information because the police themselves are leaking the information of who give them the information. And these are issues that we have to resolve in our effort to fight crime in St. Vincent and Grenadines.
The Sergeant of Police Cornelius Ross outlined how the Police Public Relations Department deals with complaints from members of the public.
When somebody is aggrieved, then they come to the Public Relations and Complaints Department. They lodge a complaint in writing. We at present, we also encourage persons. So if you're able to write, or you have somebody who is competent enough who can write for you, then you can write your own statement, write your own report, you bring it to the department. However, if you choose to come to the department, you come to the department, lodge there, statement is taken from the person, then we send out what they call an allegation to the department where the person works. So the person who is in charge of that department would get the allegation. Also, we send a copy of the statement, of the allegation, so that the person could see what was being said, and then we give them a time to respond. And after that, if they have any witnesses or anything, we try to interview witnesses, whether by telephone, we would contact them, go out, try to get statements from them also to collaborate what the person would have reported. And after that, we put together a file, which is then sent to the Deputy Commissioner of Police, with recommendations. So we do a summation, send it to the Deputy Commissioner of Police, who then would forward it to the Commissioner, who would then make a decision as to, based on our recommendation, how he sees fit, and then send it back to us for us to dispense whatever judgment he would have come up with.
Sergeant Ross said more public outreach programs will be implemented to help amend the relationship between law enforcement officers and members of the public.
I also encourage persons to, you have ideas, because we by ourselves don't have all the knowledge. You can contact us, contact any police station, any police officer that you're comfortable with. You can get in touch with the Police Public Relations and Complaints Department. And I totally agree with that, because in policing, sometimes you have to use wisdom as well. You have to be tactful. If something is pressing and you have the information right there and then, even if somebody is to go to a station, based on the nature of it as well, too, even if it's out of your district. Sometimes you could do a simple thing. If somebody come to lodge a complaint there, even if it's out of your district, based on most times you'd send them to the district that the offense would have taken place. But based on it, as I say, you have to use wisdom. And you can also take the report from the person there and you forward it to the relevant authority. So person went to Kittels, you take the report from there, but it's a Vermont issue. So the report is dealt with there, but it is forwarded to Vermont.
Police Constable 893 Michaelin John has added her name to the growing list of police officers serving in the RSVG police force who have attained master's degrees. On Saturday, October 21st, Constable John was among 1,200 students who graduated from the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus in Barbados, earning an International Masters of Business Administration IMBA degree. John attained her first degree from the same university with a bachelor's in public sector management in July 2020. She began her journey towards obtaining a second degree in September 2021, which spanned 24 months online, while at the same time fulfilling her duties and responsibilities as a police officer attached to the narcotics unit. Constable John expresses gratitude to her family, friends, colleagues, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the entire Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force for their unwavering support and motivation through her journey. She said, while this is a significant accomplishment, it is only a stepping stone in her continued pursuit of personal and professional growth. Med Safety Week will be observed here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and in other countries around the globe from November 6th to 12th. Med Safety Week was initiated by the World Health Organization, WHO, as a global campaign aimed at raising public awareness of the safety and proper use of medicines. This year's MedWeek campaign will focus on who can report, with the view that patients, doctors, nurses, and pharmacists all have a key role to play in the cycle of medicine safety. On NBC Radio's face-to-face program today, senior pharmacist in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Lolanka Ogaro, said that the main med safety issue in SVG is adherence, by having patients adhering to the recommended guidelines that are given when medication is prescribed.
To take medication after meals, and I could take it when I feel like, but there's always a specific reason. Some medication could cause irritation. Some medication, the absorption is improved when they're taken with meals or after meals. So then when you give the advice, the patients are expected to follow these guidelines. So one of the problems we have is in terms of adherence, in terms of administration. Also, we have issues in terms of storage, because that could also affect the effectiveness of medication. Some medications are very sensitive to extremes of temperature. So most medication should be stored below 25 degrees Celsius. And so you might have somebody, they prescribe a medication, it's not effective, and you might think there's something wrong with the product, but it's just a matter of how the medication has been stored. In terms of adverse reactions, what we really would like is for patients, if they suspect that the medication that they have been taken is causing an adverse reaction, that they should report it to their healthcare provider. Sometimes we have patients, they take a drug, it creates a problem, they stop taking it. They don't, especially when it comes to persons who suffer from diabetes and high blood pressure. We need them to adhere to the regimen. But if your medication is creating a problem, consult with your healthcare provider. Maybe all that is required is a change in dose, or the drug can be discontinued and something else prescribed.
Noting that St. Vincent and the Grenadines lacks a technology system to test pharmaceuticals that are imported, Ogaro said by gathering a cluster of reports from persons on substandard or falsified medication, assistance can be sought through the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, to test these drugs.
Receive a cluster of reports. We can, through assistance from PAHO and CAFO, organize for testing of these drugs, because especially in this time we have a lot of instances of substandard and falsified medications coming on the market. You hear about it on the news all the time. And for us in St. Vincent, if we have reported instances of substandard medication, we can get these things tested to find out exactly what is the problem, because that is an important part of pharmacovigilance, that's post-market surveillance, not just in terms of adverse effects and new adverse reactions, but also substandard and falsified medication. Well, you really, especially in terms of antimicrobials, when you have whether bacterial, fungal, or any other type of infection, it's really important that you take the full course of medication, because by stopping the medication before the course is finished, it gives the microorganism an opportunity to develop resistance to that medication. And that is a problem we're having worldwide in terms of drugs that were once used to treat infectious diseases are no longer effective. And what they have found is that there are not so many new antimicrobial drugs coming on the market, so it's becoming even harder and harder to find drugs to treat these organisms. And so we really encourage persons, once you not experience any adverse effect, to take your medication as prescribed until the course is completed.
Previous Med Safety Week campaigns have dealt with how patients and healthcare professionals make safety work in 2022. How to encourage patients and healthcare professionals to report all side effects, especially those associated with vaccines 2021, new or experimental treatments 2020, polypharmacy 2019, children and pregnancy 2018, and over-the-counter products 2017.